As you're all aware, we have several sector councils at IVCA, and the Real Estate Council came up with a brilliant idea to break the sort of monotony in the conclave. So we have a very different session that we are hosting this time at the conclave, where we have four amazing founders doing some pitching. And so for that, I'd like to invite Abilash, co-founder and CEO, WEGoT, on stage. Also Mahesh, Babu, founder of Enviro Enablers. Anshul from Entitled, and Deepak from Housr. Can all of you please come on stage for the session showcasing ESG in PropTech, please? A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the founders. I think you all can take the seat, and then we'll go in order so that everyone gets the podium for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we can have the presentation for WEGoT on the, I hope I'm naming it rightly. If you can have the first presentation, please, by Abilash. So Abilash, over to you. A round of applause, everyone. So each of the founders get 5 minutes in total, of which 3 minutes is pitching time, and then 2 minutes for Q&A. So make good use of those 5 minutes and those 2 minutes. Over to you guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abilash, and I'm here to talk about the role of sustainability in PropTech. More specifically, the role of water. Right? Let me lead with the answer. Climate tech and sustainability-focused solutions are going to be the single biggest change in PropTech over the next decade. We all know about 40% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are contributed by the built environment. Now, with this combination of real estate, technology, and decarbonization, this offers a huge scope for improvement and therefore mitigation of the climate crisis. And this is especially important for India, where we are expected to grow at such a rapid scale. Right? World Resources Institute predicts that about 50% of India in 2030 is not even built. And water is at the core of all of this. Water cuts across between PropTech and climate tech. Whether it is manufacturing and industries, whether it is residential and commercial real estate, or even agriculture. And we can see this problem all around us, right? I opened yesterday's paper, 9 states are extremely water stressed. The UN says that there's going to be a 40% shortfall in freshwater resources, and the cost of water is continuously trending north. Now, in order to solve for this problem, we need to have very specific solutions within water. Today, we have fairly generic statements, and this is where WEGoT comes in with its IoT-based water management platform. How do we go to the next slide? Yeah. With its IoT-based water management platform. Now, what does this mean? An IoT solution, like any IoT solution, will have two pieces. There is a hardware that collects data. And with respect to water, this could be flow of water, this could be quality of water, this could be pressure. Any of these devices that collect data will then send information to an application that takes this data and gives you real-time insights. So what this effectively means from a water perspective is that we're able to see all the supply and demand in a building, and we're able to audit the entire building in real time. And we also enable all of the stakeholders in a building, whether it is the individual consumer of water, whether it is the person managing the water, or chief sustainability officers who have multiple groups of buildings, real-time insights. once we have granular information, this leads to two things. One is increased accountability. People now will have to start thinking about their reporting. People now have starting to pay for their own water. There's transparency across the entire building in terms of consumption. The second thing is we are also able to, we are collecting about 36 million data points today. What this means is, with relation to the 50% of India not being built, is we are able to inherently build more water efficient buildings with this data. It will help you reduce your capex on the construction by reducing your pipe size, your pumps, your motors. All of this is something that we're able to do with the data. Can you go to the next one, please? So what happens when we use an IoT-based water management platform is that we see reduction in demand by up to 50%, and also a 30% reduction in the cost of electricity required, because electricity for pumping of water, for treatment of water, is all a very expensive resource. So once I reduce the demand, you're pumping that much lesser, you're treating that much lesser. The other thing that we've also innovated on is the business model. We've moved away from being just a device manufacturer or software supplier to your water management partner. We provide water management as a service, which means that we give all the equipment for free, and then we charge a monthly recurring service, which will help you manage the entire campus. We've deployed this. Which one? So these are some use cases and case studies of both residential and commercial buildings, where almost instantly, within 2-3 months of deploying in a building, you will see close to 50% reduction. This is by detection of leakages, by increasing the accountability and the transparency. We are actually supported, and our early adopters are the flag bearers of the real estate industry, whether it's commercial or residential or even industries. We're also backed by investors who have deep knowledge within the real estate space. And what we've also realized right now is we're at this point where the solution that we have is not local to only India. This solves a truly global problem, and we're looking to expand outside of India as well right now. Thank you. Sure. I'm happy to take any questions.
Hi, Abilash. Great presentation. Just wanted to understand from your point of view, what makes your company the next, let's say, unicorn? Because all of us here at IVCA conference are quote-unquote unicorn hunters, right? So what makes your company the next unicorn? Just give us some highlights about your company.
Yeah. So the first thing is the differentiation in the product itself, right? The quality of the data that we collect and the connection to all the stakeholders means that I'm able to add genuine value to people who have these problems. So the differentiation of the product, and this is something that we're constantly investing in continuous R&D. Second is a lot of people focus on the energy part of the problem, but very few people in the water space. And we've gotten off the blocks first, and we have considerable scale. And just at the scale that India is growing and this problem exists outside of India means that I really don't have to try too hard to become a unicorn. I just have to keep putting my head down and do my work, and I will end up becoming a unicorn as well.
Thank you, Abilash.
Thank you.
A round of applause, everyone, for the wonderful presentation. But that's all the time we got. So now, next I would like to invite Mahesh, founder of Enviro Enablers. Mahesh, over to you. Yeah. So 3 minutes to pitch and 2 minutes for Q&A. Yeah. No, they'll just put it up. Just give it a moment.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. I have very few minutes and a lot of ground to cover. So fundamentally, I'm going to be talking about an initiative that impacts each one of you in this room. Just 45 minutes from where you sit today is India's Asia's actually largest dump site. It's a place called Deonar Dumping Grounds, and it sort of reflects the problem that we have with waste dumping across the country. There are close to 2,000 such dump sites in all our urban centers, and they have huge problems in terms of unscientific disposal. The municipalities have very little, this doesn't move. The municipalities have a lot of constraints in terms of money for processing of waste. They spend most of their budgets on collection and transportation of waste. And if you look at the right-hand side, in terms of groundwater pollution, in terms of ocean plastic, in terms of methane emissions, because if you dump waste, you generate methane. And then you have problems related to air pollution. 20% of Delhi's particulate matter menace is because of improper waste management. The country itself is going to go to from 70 million tons to 130 million tons of waste. And this is we're actually sitting, if I may use a slight hyperbole, we're sitting on an urban catastrophe. The enabling factors that have now come into place are really, you have a very strong EPR regulation, extended producer responsibility regulations. You have rising penalties on the private sector and on the governments as well. The National Green Tribunal recently put a penalty of 12,000 crores on the Maharashtra government, and you have such penalties across the country as well. What is the solution to this fundamentally? If the municipalities do not have the financial bandwidth to take care of it, what is the solution? The solution, as I see it, is very simple. From a point of view of reducing the waste, the only way we can do it is if we can process waste. That is, you valorize waste and you convert it into a useful byproduct, and you get industry involved in it in a major way, because industry is also equally keen at one level to provide and get alternate fuels. The problem that they have with the municipal system is that it does not provide consistent and quality waste. So if one can do that, then I think you would get industry to play a much larger role. And that's what we are trying to do in terms of setting up a solution. We have set up large waste management plants in our previous avatars. We have processed close to about 6 million tons of construction and demolition waste. So we know scale. If you can combine scale and quality of raw material for industry, then I think you stand a chance of overcoming this urban catastrophe. And that's what our digital waste platform that we are setting up is basically going to be cloud-based, and is going to bring together scale and in-house expertise in waste management to address this issue, which has now become, as I mentioned, literally a part of every single city. And no urban cleanup is possible unless you address this issue of urban waste and how to stop its dumping. Yeah. So I think we are very fortunate in having a very, how should I say, very integrated approach to the whole problem. You can look at plastic waste, construction waste, pre-consumer waste, and manufacturing waste, all of which where industry can play a role. Our solution is called Climate Circle, and we are trying to integrate it in a manner in which every single aspect of waste can be tracked and traced, which is again a big missing piece in the puzzle right now, and also mainstreaming the informal sector, who play a big role in reducing the waste that is dumped. The differentiators, as I mentioned, is we can do scale, and we have, as I mentioned, we pioneered India's first construction and demolition waste management facility. We have a very eminent advisory board, and we're very fortunate in having partners like HDFC Capital. And I would like to take a minute to make a special mention of thanks to Vipul Rungta, who's been supporting this venture. And hopefully that's putting your money where your mouth is, and it will make a difference, I think, in the sector going forward. Thank you.
So I haven't understood, are you just doing construction, demolition, waste solutions right now, Mahesh, or is it something larger? Because, you know, you started with CND and then you said that it's a cloud-based platform to track everything.
We are actually, Manisha, looking at all aspects of waste. We're looking at plastic waste, we're looking at construction waste, we're looking at food waste. So the idea being that each of this can produce and provide an alternate fuel to a particular industry set. So if we can bring these two together on the platform and provide consistency and quality, as I mentioned, then it could pretty much apply to almost all waste streams. Because if you look at it, each waste stream has and is a resource for someone else.
But previously, the construction and demolition waste, at least if I just focus on that, even after recycling, there are not enough takers. Why is that? Of the bricks that come out?
There are actually, now it's picking up. Partially it's because you use it in non-load bearing areas. Partially it's also because of the fact that these products take time to gain acceptance. And the fact that builders will more and more, as I mentioned earlier, if HDFC Capital sort of tells its entire building community that these products do work and they do make sense, you will see a movement towards that. And that's already happening. And I think going forward, it's going to increasingly happen.
Mahesh, thanks a lot for this presentation. Apart from the services, which is related to waste removal and disposal, one key thing that you mentioned was the waste exchange, right? To a layman, is this something similar to carbon exchange and carbon credits, where you are trying to establish something like waste credits, where a buyer and a seller can actually do some kind of a technology-based trading? Or is this something else?
Yes, it's a part of, it could be a similar exchange. There are now plastic credits, for instance, where if a person is processing more plastic than what his target is, he can actually trade those credits. So there's plastic credits, and again, even this particular exchange has a huge impact in terms of greenhouse gas emissions also, because as I mentioned, you're generating methane, which is at least 20 to 28 times more globally warming than a ton of carbon dioxide. So there would be a big angle in terms of also credits that could be traded. Thank you all very much, and just as a last word, I think it's a topic where each one of you is a stakeholder. So my request is stay with this journey till we lick it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mahesh. I hope you get a lot of funding and solve this massive problem for our country. Without much ado, I'd like to invite Anshul Khurana, co-founder Entitled. Say Entitled for 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present here today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Entitled, a startup that seeks to cater to the S in ESG. So while India's financial inclusion index over the last few years have gone up to 53.9%, we've realized that that's largely remained limited to opening up bank accounts, and some of these numbers will justify that. Low-income workers still struggle to be able to access financial and health services, with 82% of them have no access to formal loans, 77% of them have no formal savings, and 80% of them have no health coverage at all. And these are the key issues that prompted us to look at a solution like Entitled. Traditional financial and health service providers lack an effective model to be able to integrate a large part of these workers, and some of the reasons for that are as follows: lack of sufficient data and understanding of low-income workers, very low transaction value and very high distribution cost given low digital and financial literacy amongst low-income workers, and lack of innovation in service processes and very limited physical reach that some of the traditional providers bring in. A large proportion of these workers, we're talking about a total group of about 200 million workers, and a large proportion of these work in the real estate and construction space, about 30% of them, while other segments such as manufacturing, retail, logistics are all other major sectors where a lot of these workers are deployed today. Entitled enables access to financial and health services for low-income workers. We are building a service ecosystem for India's largest consumer group, where we bring in low-income workers from one end who need these services, and like I said, it's a large group of workers, and bring in service providers from the other side that have billions of dollars but have very limited consumer insight, all to a platform called Entitled. Where we simplify access with the user interfaces and the processes that we built for blue-collar workers, and also have a deep user profiling layer that service providers can use to be able to enable access to these services for workers. Some of the services we enable include giving them access to salary advances and loans, micro insurance, which is a massive segment by itself, health plans that look at how can we affordably enable doctor consultations, affordable medicines, lab tests, etc., saving programs, as well as support with the government service ecosystem that has been built. There's Ayushman Bharat and a bunch of other government programs, but workers find it incredibly hard to be able to access and understand how to navigate that ecosystem. We partner with employers and gig service platforms to be able to enable access. These partners help us bring in blue-collar workers onto our platform. We have WhatsApp-based access for workers, so we've built very comprehensive bots to allow for hyper-personalization of content and very custom service flows that can be built in multilingual formats for workers to come in and understand and get access to the services that we're talking about. And we bring in partner service providers on the other end, but everything in terms of access for workers happen within our ecosystem itself to make it easier for them to be able to access these services. Our value proposition for corporate partners, for employers that we work with, we help them lower cost and better benefits for their workers, better retention and engagement, stronger financial bonds, and higher worker satisfaction. With large gig and workforce platforms that we partnered with, we help them improve recruitment, retention, and engagement, and then also help them lower cost of each worker that comes onto their platform, a metric that they will track at the very top. Some use cases for large associations that we're already working with. We've enabled access to primary health services, loans, and PFESIC support for the largest manned security service company in India. I've enabled HRMS and payroll embedded loans and health plans for the largest staffing company in India. And then we've enabled loans linked to performance data for gig workers associated with a very prominent gig service platform called Swiggy. So these are just some examples of use cases that we work with. Access to a large community of blue-collar workers has also opened up opportunities on the developmental side, where entities like USAID have used our platform to enable and identify workers that they can enable access to health programs with. And we're also a part of the HDFC Capital-funded LEAP program, where we are enabling insurance and government benefit support for construction workers. We currently cater to 500,000 workers, 45 platform partners. We've received more than 200,000 requests from these workers, and we've processed more than 80,000 transactions for workers coming to us and getting access to credit and other health services that I've spoken about. Some of our prominent partners include the likes of Swiggy, Quest, Neo, which is a neo-banking platform, SIS, and these entities could potentially give us a reach of about 1 million workers by itself. Thank you so much. I'm leaving with my coordinates here. Anyone who is interested in knowing more about this segment or has a large group of workers, we'd love to be able to engage. And if there are any questions, happy to take those at this point as well. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Anshul. I'd like to now invite upon stage Deepak Anand. We've got one more speaker, please. Yeah. So I'd like to now invite Deepak Anand, co-founder and CEO of Housr, to come on stage and take it from here. Deepak, you have 5 minutes in total. Over to you. All the best.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to come and showcase our brand here. We at Housr are India's premium managed living brand. I would like to break the monotone here and request for a small 2.5 minute video to be played first. Thank you so much. So as you guys could see from the video, we do super premium managed living for urban, single working professionals, as well as for small families. So let's say, someone staying in Bangalore, right, is from Bangalore, got himself a job in Gurgaon. Instead of, self-renting an apartment, getting all the amenities, the services, caring for the housekeeping, maintenance, food, laundry, we do all-in package for these guys. Our properties today, across, NCR, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, the rooms and suite furniture and the services are comparable, with the top 5-star hotels. So you could say that, we are business class of co-living. Anyone would want me to? Yes, sir. So we leasing these properties, we get the properties furnished as per our BOQ from the owners only. So we lease out these properties from developers or owners, for a 9-15-year period. And then, we sublet it by room to the working professionals. It is a fixed lease model, it is not profit sharing. So, we bundle all the services in when we take these properties, everything from security, housekeeping, Wi-Fi, DTH, laundry, breakfast, dinner, and a lot of focus, is to kill the urban loneliness. So we do, a lot of these community events over the weekend for these guys. Our TG, when we started out about, 4.5, 5 years back, was largely millennial, right? It is now shifting to people in their 30s and 40s as well, and small families. So average rent for, let's say, we have multiple formats. So we have, these studio rooms. We have 1 BHKs, 2 BHKs, 3 BHKs, and so on and so forth. So let's say for a market like Gurgaon, you could rent out a single room between 40 and 65,000 a month, depending on where exactly is the property and, which category room are you taking.
What's the kind of yield your landlords end up making?
See, the average rental yield on a resi, otherwise, if you look at it, is about 2.5%, right? But when you furnish it as per our BOQ, if it is a build to suit, right, then the yield could go as high as 8.5%, 9%. But if it is not a BTS property, if I take an as is, right, there could be a lot of inefficiency. So still the yield that the landlords typically get is in the range of 4 to 5%.
In a market like Mumbai, are you present? Are you planning to be present?
We're not in Mumbai. It's got to do with, very high real estate prices and lack of aggregated inventory, which is not available in Mumbai. So there is no plotted development in Mumbai, unlike, the cities where we are present. Cities like Gurgaon, Pune, you have a lot of these, plotted developments. So it works best there. Otherwise, we've also leased out full residential towers from the developer with separate entry exit. And we do not use the common amenities. We create our own amenities there. So that, there is no conflict with the RWA there.
Got it. Thanks.
My question is, when you are leasing these units, are you leasing out the beds or you are leasing out the rooms?
No, so we lease out the entire property. So we do not do disaggregated property. So we take out, we lease out the entire building from the owners, right? So it could be anywhere between 50 and 500 keys per building.
So majorly you will be dealing with the developers, not with the individual property owners?
We deal with developers and individual owners, investors as well. As I told you, we have properties as small as 40 keys and, as large as 500 keys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No more questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deepak, and thanks to all the founders, all the best to all the founders. If you can just have a group peek. And a huge round of applause, everyone, for the founder community. I guess the founder, GP, and LP is what completes the full circle. And thanks to the Real Estate Council, Nipun, for coming this idea and the team there. So the next panel discussion is private equity in India's real estate.